Well, hello, sir.
Good evening. A giveaway to over 2,000 people. It's a brave thing to do. Well done. How's it been going?
Man, I think that might be one of the most stressful things that I've been doing because I'm getting Discord DMs from at least a dozen different people at any given time. Some people faking it, some people real.
Yeah, happens all the time. Oh,
Right?
giveaways, right? In that case, yeah, totally different thing. Carry on.
Have you done any giveaways with that many people
You know
before?
what? I was always too scared to do giveaways, and I don't think my viewers deserve anything. That's pretty much the way that the energy that I'm going in with it is you're getting me streaming a game. That's all you get. That's good enough. You don't get anything else.
Hey man, that's been good enough for me all this time. I've been watching you for many years now, and all I do is consume said content, and I'm satisfied, honestly.
Well, I need to have a bone to pick with you actually in a second. First of all, the viewers in the stream are saying, could you turn the volume of Discord up very slightly?
Oh yes, of course I can.
Beautiful.
Here we go. Sorry, I totally forgot to do a sound check. I was already enamored.
That's absolutely fine. We're doing this live. There's always going to be problems whenever we do anything live. Hello, Twitch. I'm watching all of it on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Multi-streaming, exceptional. Well done with that. Can we please have a little bit of the clap emoji going off in both chats for just how much damn work Try has been putting in over the last couple of days, weeks, months, the hype, the information, just the general communication that we've got going. It's been beautiful. Right, now that's all been said, I've got a bone to pick with you. My YouTube shorts were doing really well up until yours have started doing even better. What's up with that?
Dude, I don't know. They popped off. I gotta say, Josh Strife-Hayes has been my inspiration. I've been trying to get a Brazil thing going.
YouTube all day and see me. I was like, Josh Strife-Hayes, yeah, I'm doing it. And then suddenly it was like, hey, here's another fact about Path of Exile 2. And it was funny at first. And now I opened the YouTube app on my phone. I'm like, you bastard.
The funny thing too is that I pulled a Grinding Gear Games. I was asset reusing to the maximum because I was writing daily tweets, right? I know you made fun of me, like, oh, you know, the instant it got delayed, you were like, got to make, you know, a whole bunch more facts now, dude.
Okay, so did the viewers know this? I follow you on, obviously, Twitter. I follow you on YouTube. I follow you on all the platforms. I love the work that you do. And I was following those daily tweets that you were doing, you know, this many days until Path of Exile 2, this many days until Path of Exile 2. And when they announced the 3-week delay, I sent Try a message on Twitter, just being like, guess you got to come up with 3 more weeks of random facts.
It is hard too, because it's one of the first things I always did in the morning. And as we got to the tail end of release, I thought, you know what? Why am I not trying shorts? Obviously, these are very powerful if you do them in the right manner. You know, on YouTube, I've found that they work really well just on my single channel. I don't really have a separate channel anymore. And I just started pumping them out, and I was just reading my tweets. Literally all I was doing. I was like,
without a doubt, you've done phenomenally well. And this is the main difference between I create more generalized content within the kind of MMO online gaming landscape, and that gives me an excellent general overview. But what I will always lack is hyper specialized knowledge of one game, extreme in-depth kind of code level, kernel level knowledge of exactly how a game works. And that's what, whenever anyone is thinking about Path of Exile 2 or even Path of Exile 1, I send them to watch your stuff. I send them to chat to you because you have incredible in-depth knowledge. Don't you be blushing. You've worked hard for this. You deserve it. You've got incredible in-depth knowledge of exactly how all the game systems work. And the most difficult thing to do that I see people try and fake all the time that you just can't fake, you're actually passionate about the game. You actually care about the content that you're making. So my honest question, I think this will give you a great chance to talk to all the people here. Why? What does Path of Exile mean to you? Why do you like it so much?
So this goes back to a story I may have also hilarious. You're interviewing me. This is really good, man. I love it. Peak content. It all goes back to the first time that I booted up PoE. I've been a gamer since I was 4 years old. My dad taught me to read playing Baldur's Gate 1. I literally I'm not even joking, dude.
I love that game. I love that game so much.
Dude, loved your playthrough of it. I watched the whole thing multiple times. I learned to read with that game. I would read the dialogue and everything because everything wasn't voice acted either in BG1 and BG2. I think everything is voice acted. But I learned to read through that game, BG2, and Neverwinter Nights. So I've been a gamer like my entire life, essentially. But I've never been what some may say is a degenerate gamer. Like, I've been passionate, right? But the first time I booted up Path of Exile, my wife was out of town. She was visiting her relatives. And I booted it up after a long day at college. I was working on a project, doing the solo man routine, doing 90% of the work. The other 4 people are doing 10%. It's exhausted. Came home, played Diablo 3, and I hit Act 3, and I was like, I can't play this game. It's not fun. It's not dark. It's not like gritty. It doesn't seem overly deep. So I looked up Diablo-like games. Not even kidding you. So before the whole Diablo-like controversy, I was like, Diablo-like games back in 2019. First thing that popped up was Path of Exile. Booted the game up, downloaded it, played it. I looked at the clock and it was 6 a.m. I started playing at 9 p.m. I mean, the game just grabbed me immediately.
Give it a second. We've got some ads on Twitch.
Oh, not ads. So let's stall.
We can't be making the Twitch people wait. I don't know if the ads are playing on YouTube as well at the same time.
No, they can skip on YouTube as well.
Oh, that's fine. Nice. Well, we'll just wait. We'll hang on.
We can hang on for a moment to continue the story. So are you going to stream today, Josh?
I know that the ads always do this because I know that some people, I'm guessing if they have Prime or if they're subs to you, they don't see the ads.
Correct. Or Turbo.
Gotcha. I always have, just in case for this, I always have an incognito window open up with whatever stream I'm involved with at the time so I can see whenever the ads happen for the people who aren't subbed so we can take a break for it.
That's interesting. You can do that?
Yeah, just have an incognito stream coming up.
That's a good idea. Okay, so third monitor.
This is important. I want people to know your passion, so we can't skip this. This is genuinely good.
Okay, well, we'll give it a second, and I'll use that trick in the future. I actually did not know that was the case. So I tried.
Someone said you use Windows Audio Maker or something, and you were like, "We're not doing that. We're not getting into that. It's too complicated right now."
Literally, yeah. Because I have everything on one channel for these. I'm not fancy. I'm not like professional at all, dude. Like I don't want to get into it but let's see. Ads over.
So I have a Stream Deck here. All right.
Is it an Elgato?
It is. I don't use it. It's got the Elgato symbol on it. Someone bought me this saying you need this to stream. I left it in the box for about 3 months and used it as a coaster. And then I took it out of the box, installed it, and now never use it. I've heard it's good.
I might have to. I'm investing, dude. Because I have a full-time job alongside this, so I have like the YouTube and Twitch is supplemental. Like we're putting like, I'd say half into our children's bank accounts, like their college accounts, whatever, that nobody can touch until they're 18 plus. Good. And then the other half I'm trying to reinvest after taxes, of course.
That's what I'm doing.
So yeah, it's a smart way. Like we get to max out our Roth IRAs and everything. It's very, very cool. I'm very happy with it.
And we've got Twitch back. There we go. We waited all the time for you.
You didn't even miss anything, you guys. Didn't miss anything. The story. So I downloaded PoE, played literally the entire night. It was as if no time had passed at all. And then day 2, man, I log in and it's ExileCon 2019. And I watched the presentation from Chris Wilson and he freaking like starts almost crying on stage. And I'm hooked. Like I'm attached to these developers. They are obviously so passionate. They have such a great game. It's a lean team. They do what they want to do. They don't necessarily get dictated by other people in the industry. They kind of set trends and people seem to learn from them. And if anyone else ever does something that's better, they're just like, oh, yeah, I'll have that. Yeah, I'll grab that. I'll add it to the game. So I just immediately became immersed. I started playing league after league. And, I have spurts of when I can play a lot. And then spurts of when I can't play a lot. And this game serves it so well. I can play for a few weeks and then pop out for a month and a half, 2 months and come right back in. And it works perfectly with the life I have with my family and my work and all that. So
that was one of the most important things that I learned from chatting to Chris Wilson, actually, because I've held opinions for a long time on exactly how things should be done. And of course, those opinions often get challenged by people saying, hey, don't do it this way, do it this way instead. And when you mentioned about the idea of taking small things that work, that relates back. I was a martial arts instructor many years ago. And Bruce Lee, obviously one of the most influential martial artists of all time, had a philosophy of martial arts called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And the idea of Jeet Kune Do is to take what works and discard what doesn't and create something that is uniquely effective for whatever you need it to be effective for. Don't force something to fit a mold. Find what shape the mold is and then flow into it like water. Beautiful philosophy. The idea of taking aspects from other games and saying, hey, we're going to borrow this, because good artists borrow, but great artists steal. They just see something that works and say, hey, I'm going to take that. And I love the fact that Path of Exile were brave enough to do that. But the most important thing I think Chris taught me was I didn't realize many, many years ago how important it is to have someone with a vision leading a project, a focused leader who understands what they want. And they understand that they might not make everyone happy. Choices they make will alienate people. But you cannot make something that someone loves without also creating somebody who hates it. If you create something that everyone is just indifferent to, there's no love, there's no hate, there's no passion, there's no disparity. It's just kind of there. And I thought, that's the best way to make a game. You should make something that's kind of there. You should appeal to absolutely everyone. I didn't realize at the time that appealing to everyone appeals to no one. You end up being quite liked but not loved. So when I was talking to Chris Wilson and I said, look, Chris, the skill tree, it's way too overbearing. It's way too scary. People log on, they scroll back, they see the skill tree, they're like, I'm out, I quit, I'm done. You should change that. And he said to me, Josh, if we change that, we alienate the people who do want that. And we very much focus our game toward the people who do want that. And we are willing and comfortable focusing on those and not changing to appease people who don't want what we make. And when he said that, that was one of the first times I've spoken to a game designer who straight up to me just said, no, you're wrong. This is how we're doing it. And the amount of respect I have for that man after that, because almost everyone I've spoken to always goes, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, we'll take that on board. We'll change it around. We'll take everyone's ideas on board. Yeah, this is good. We'll make something that appeals to everyone. Chris just went, no, I'm making the game I want to make the way I want to make it. And I'll listen to everyone, but ultimately we're doing what I want to do. And God damn if it doesn't work pretty well.
Oh, massively well. And we're seeing that now, dude. They did not expect this level of success, which is crazy. They are so humble, even after a decade plus of developing this game, which just had its peak concurrent users the last League launch. They were like, guys, 1 million plus. We did not really expect this. This is crazy. The sales are still going berserk. Top globally on Steam. I mean, this is what happens when you do exactly as you described. You have a vision, you stick to it, and you try to please a certain sect of people. And then I talked with Asman yesterday, and he said the best way to advertise, and it's how GGG primarily advertise, is word of mouth. Sure, they pay
that to absolutely everyone. Yep. If you put an advert out and 1,000 people see it, but nobody shares that advert, nobody talks about it, nobody talks about the game, then great, 1,000 people have seen it. But if you put a game out that 1,000 people play and each of those talk to 3 or 4 of their friends, you have tripled, quadrupled the reach you've got. Then it just grows exponentially from there. Advertising. In fact, this leads into a strange story. You're absolutely spot on with this. I was doing some work recently with Wizards of the Coast because I love Magic the Gathering, and I was making a Magic the Gathering advert. I don't know if you've seen the silly one. It was with the YouTuber Kadikarus as well. And Kadikarus, good friend of mine, really genuine guy. And we walked into the kind of Wizards offices, and I said, look, guys, we want to make a funny, silly advert that people are going to share. Because no matter how many people you promote this advert to, the most important thing is for it to be shareable. It needs to be spoken about because the spoken word, the social sharing aspect is more powerful than anything you could funnel money into. And thankfully, they allowed us to do a really silly, kind of funny advert that worked really, really well. But to tie that back to Path of Exile, just making something that people want to talk about is the most effective advertising. Vampire Survivors, that didn't advertise almost at all. People played it, people loved it, people spoke about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think what Path of Exile distills in that too is they make all these aspects of the game that are so deep and so complex, but are instantly recognizable and shareable with people. The passive skill tree, this Atlas system at the end game with the exploration, the skill gem system, which blows people's minds when they understand that they get to make their own skills. I play a lot of D&D, right? I used to play a lot of D&D, rip kids, right? I used to be a huge dungeon master, used to improvise an absolute ton. And the number one thing my players love to do is change how their skills worked in combat, like describe them flavorfully. Well, in Path of Exile, in Path of Exile 2, you can literally change your spells to do what you think is cool or powerful, and it feels so good, man. So good.
It's what I'm going to be doing. I mean, my arrows will start off as arrows. Then they'll become little needles of poison. Then they'll become big blobs of poison. Then I'll get quill rain, and everything will be fine. Yep. We're manifesting this. Quill rain drop within the first, I want to say, I don't want to kind of assume that I'm going to be too lucky, but quill rain drop within, I think about 6, maybe 7 minutes.
Oh
And
my God, dude.
then we just build up from there. We can't go wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong from there. That's going to be absolutely great.
Oh, bro, you've played Path of Exile. You know that you are sending bad juju into the universe right now.
Oh no, it's fine. Don't worry. We'll get the really good. We'll get a perfect drop within the first 6-7 minutes. It'll be the best build I've ever done.
You have the streamer client, don't you? Personally designed by Chris Wilson and Jonathan.
We've all got the streamer client.
That's what it is. See, man, some bloated Miller.
You're going to get and type in whatever you want to drop. It drops straight away. I mean, we're not going to tell people we've got that, but it does work.
Right. This isn't live. We're totally fine. I can edit it out in post. It's okay.
Oh, okay, good. And if you're in Twitch and YouTube right now, you haven't heard that. Be cool. Okay,
don't share it.
Anybody else?
Nobody share it, okay? Don't clip it. Don't do anything. It's totally fine. I don't want to see this like at the top of the subreddit or anything like that. It's fake. Okay? Thank you.
So here is an interesting question. Here's something that I'm kind of seeing the switch over right now.
Okay.
People have been comparing Path of Exile to a Diablo-like. And now we're starting to see a bit of a switch to comparing games like these to Exile-likes. Now, many years ago, for anyone that's on Twitch or YouTube that hasn't seen any of my content, I work primarily in MMORPGs, World of Warcraft, EverQuest, Guild Wars, Final Fantasy, stuff like that. Now, many years ago, the Titanic battle was between EverQuest and Ultima. And EverQuest and Ultima were the only kind of two MMOs that really kind of clashed together. And then out of nowhere, World of Warcraft came along. And now we don't call MMOs like EverQuest, like Ultima. We say like World of Warcraft. It's the switch in the understanding of the genre, the focus of the genre. That switch, I feel, is starting to happen now. And we're actually taking the Diablo-like idea and switching it into a more Exile-like idea. The same that we saw Castlevania become, or a Metroidvania become a Souls-like. Mm-hmm. Are we starting to see a switch in description now?
I most definitely agree. And inadvertently, Rod Ferguson's tweet was probably a huge boon to the Path of Exile community. What he really was talking about was games being Diablo 2-like, right? Mm-hmm. And Blizzard has never really continued that legacy. And lots of people are still searching for that. We see the success of D2 Resurrected. We see people really enjoyed Path of Exile, which obviously was a continuation of that. And Path of Exile 2 is if Grinding Gear Games, when they made PoE 1, basically had unlimited budget and resources and said, this is the game we want to make. This is the perfect sequel to PoE 2. And I think because of that, Diablo 2 is now a distant memory for a lot of us. This is at the forefront. This is the first time Path of Exile has been in the mainstream, man. I am seeing everyone talk about it. I had people message me from my high school who Googled Path of Exile 2, recognized my face, and messaged me on Facebook like, bro, I'm trying out Path of Exile 2. You're like a content creator for that? That's pretty cool, man. I have my dad playing it. My wife is dropping off my daughter at 4 p.m. today so she can come play it. My brother's playing it with his wife. None of these people played Diablo 4. None of these people played Path of Exile.
You're about to have people that you knew many years ago in your life crawl out of the woodwork and be like, yo, we were always friends, weren't we? Can I go with you on your content creator adventures? Can you come and help me out with this? We were always good pals back then, weren't we? I'm like, no.
I can totally see that happen, man. And I want to cycle back to something that you were touching on before about passion for this game and just how excited the community seems to be for it, and me in particular. Now I'm making this about myself. Oops. One thing that I think a lot of people, especially new people, hadn't seen in Path of Exile before is someone who's like genuinely, like you said, excited and passionate about the game. And I think with Path of Exile 2, it's going to bring a lot more people with those personalities into the game. It's not just going to be those hardcore, all right, I'm grinding, I'm crunching numbers, I'm just blasting all day. It's going to be a lot more people who are animated, really enjoy the story, the combat, all that sort of stuff. Me, I'm passionate because I do this as a hobby right now. So why would I do it if I hated it? Or if I'm like really dull and everything? Like, this is just my personality, man. I presume, do you let your personality, your real you bleed into your videos? Because I do that. I don't do persona necessarily. I get people do personas. I've spoken with people who obviously do on streams or on videos, but I feel like that's a lot of work. Like I used to do that in D&D. Man, after being 12 different personas in a 4-hour session, I was just zonked. I could not
it's mentally
be another
draining,
person.
Without a doubt. You're spot on. That, I think, this links to a Grinding Gear Games thing. that I'll bring up in a second. But the idea that you are not kind of acting. To anyone on Twitch or YouTube, the truth of this is that when you are performing, and this is a level of performance because we are enunciating into microphones, we are still being slightly more animated on camera, but you're not being fake. You're being what we call hyper-real. Hyper-real is you take exactly who you are and add like a little spice, a little dash, a little extra, a little kind of oomph to it, which brings the entertainment value, but you're not lying. You're not being fake at all. Whenever people hang out with me in real life, I still have exactly the same opinions. I talk in the same way, but I'm maybe not as loud, as pronounced, as I'm not moving around as much. Because if you try and do that the entire time, you just get burnt out. You get drained. And when you then find success and go to conventions and people walk up to you and be like, hey man, I love your stuff. It's great to meet you. You have to instantly flip that switch on your head and become the person that they have seen performing. And that is incredibly mentally draining. By just being you on stream and just being honest and genuine, the one thing that you really can't fake is being genuinely passionate and exciting or excited about something. And you are passionate and excited about this. That's why it's been great to watch you the entire time.
It's an interesting line because I see people thinking that people who are excited, or at least until a week and a half ago, man, people who are excited about PvE are just, shills for the game, right? This swap, I know you've played Path of Exile 1. I don't know if you paid attention to like the community around it. But man, people in PoE 1 were so doomer about this game until Grinding Gear Games came and blew everyone's minds with that showcase. The showcase 2 weeks ago. And now everyone's
I was like, there was endless systems upon systems, which is great.
Just rolling,
it's launching
man.
with more content than Diablo 4 ended with.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ended, Path. That's funny. I want to ask you, because I haven't had the chance to talk to a lot of people necessarily outside the ARPG space a ton. I know you have a video cooking on RuneScape. Did you release that? I can't remember if you released the RuneScape 3 video.
I've got a 3-hour deep dive into RuneScape 3 and its mechanics, but my main focus is on old school, although I know more about RuneScape 3 than I did before, obviously, because I've made that.
Do you think that this is going to be at all comparable, where, OSRS and RuneScape 3, a large amount of the community may have hopped to RuneScape 3 and then they immediately just jerked back? Do you think that's at all going to happen? Or from an outsider's perspective, does this basically just look like a better Path of Exile 1?
I think it's giving different experiences because of the fundamental core changes within it. And I think we're going to get a very Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2 thing. I love Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 is one of my absolute favorite RPGs of all time. I think it's phenomenal, but it's a very different experience to Guild Wars 2, which is still a bloody good game. It just gives me a different experience. Whenever I log on to play a video game, I don't sit down and say, right, what video game is going to cover every single possible desire that I could have over the rest of my life? I say, what game gives me what I want right now? And this is why I sometimes feel a bit worried or sorry for people who want one game to become their everything, to become their personality for the next couple of years or months. They say, hey, which game should I invest into? Well, the answer is you should find a game that fulfills a certain desire that you have within gaming and then go for that. If I want to go for a mindless shooter, I'll jump on Unreal Tournament for a little bit. If I want some puzzles, we'll jump on Portal 2. If I want to play some real-time strategy, it's Supreme Commander, Age of Empires. I think that Path of Exile 1 and 2 are different enough to provide two different experiences. If I want a slightly, I want to say slower, slightly more niche, slightly more tactical, I say that Path of Exile 1 is probably going to have that, with the gem slot still being on the weapons and with the lack of the dodge roll and the lack of the WASD movement. It's still going to have an audience, but Path of Exile 2 is going to serve an audience who potentially want a slightly faster paced action RPG, possibly a harder action RPG. There are going to be different demographics that it serves.
Such a controversial statement right now, man. Crazy thing, because everybody just keeps saying Path of Exile 2 is going to be way slower, but you are darn right, dude.
From what I've seen, it looks faster. Dodge rolls alone mean that there will be an animation from an enemy, or the attack will fire through that does not yet have hit frames, and you will be able to respond to it and dodge. There will likely be, whether there are or aren't invulnerability frames, the existence of a dodge roll implies the time to respond to something. And if you can dodge roll quickly, you're responding to a lot of things.
I love definitions, right? And a lot of people see Path of Exile 1 as being fast, blasty, you're zooming, you're going across the map in seconds. I think the better word to use for Path of Exile 2 is engaging. I think it will constantly be engaging you. It'll have faster gameplay in a sense. Oh no, my automatic camera's motion activated camera just got activated by my little quotes right there. Interesting. It's going to be faster in a sense, but at all times it seems like it's going to be more engaging. And there's an audience who wants to have a second monitor going and be watching the second monitor, you know, watching Josh, watching a show on Netflix, whatever, while they're playing Path of Exile 1. And they think that Path of Exile 2 will not allow that to occur. And I'm kind of for that, dude. When I sit down, and maybe that's selfish of me, but when I sit down to play a game, I want to play the game. I don't want to play the game.
And this is why it's great that it serves two different audiences. Right. Sometimes people want to turn on Righteous Fire and run through a map. That's fine. Yep. Now, a great way of looking at what you were explaining, and you explained it very well, was it's not how much stuff is happening, it's how much am I engaging with and responding to. If I've played Dynasty Warriors, and I like Dynasty Warriors, and I want to run into a massive, huge crowd of 200 enemies and just mash some buttons, yeah, a lot of stuff's happening. It's visually beautiful on the screen. There's flourishes going on. There's lots of sparkles and particle effects, but I'm not necessarily responding to anything that's happening within the game. I'm causing stuff to happen, but I'm not engaged or responding to it. It's fun to watch. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the experience that you want, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If I'm fighting a very simple boss in Dark Souls or Demon Souls, or even playing an old game called Bushido Blade, which is almost 1 or 2 hits and you die, then less is happening, but I am responding to more, because everything that happens is worthy of a response. So from what I've seen, the gameplay of Path of Exile 2, it looks like a lot of stuff is worth responding to. Whereas when I've played Path of Exile 1, it's mostly about just doing the process that I was setting up to do and hoping the game kind of lets me do it.
Yeah, that's a very eloquent way of putting it. Totally agree with that. And I think that's what's going to draw a lot of people to the game itself. I think alongside the complexity of Path of Exile 1, a lot of people may be turned off by the fact that you can turn your brain off very quickly in the game until you get to, you know, the deepest parts of end game, right? Certain builds just cause you to sit there, lock in, and kind of drone out, almost like a mobile game, I'd say. Because you're not really paying attention to the screen, you're just chilling, you know, you're reading Reddit on the side. I think a lot of people don't want that. I think they want to be immersed in the world when they play. And you're doing a full lore playthrough too, aren't you, man? You're going to listen to all the dialogue like me?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I went back and I recently replayed through all of Path of Exile 1 and listened to all the dialogue from that. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's why Katava's doing all that. It makes a lot more sense now. I understand the context behind what was going on. So, yes, I will be listening to the lore. The voice acting is fantastic. I'm very excited to hear all of that. There is nothing wrong with wanting a game that you can just turn your brain off and run through and kill things. No. That's absolutely fine. People have wanted that forever. But I enjoy when a game challenges me and engages me. Is that gamer moment when you almost sit forward in your chair and you're like, okay, I see what you're bringing here, game. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to win this time. And I like that.
I still get that every Path of Exile 1 league. I'm not a god gamer or anything. Every time I get to like one of the first pinnacle bosses, my hands get sweaty. I start shivering a little bit. You know, I'm losing portals. I get down to that last one and then I just lock in. And those are the moments I really play for. They're just spectacular. And I'm hoping that with the Path of Exile 2 boss design and the combat design, I'm just going to get a lot of that in a few hours, dude.
If there is no risk of loss, then the victory is meaningless. The victory is ultimately just a thing that is guaranteed, which means it doesn't even require your skill, it just requires your time. And we all have time. As much as I like the fact that bosses retain lost health in the PoE 1 campaign, it does mean that ultimately every single boss just becomes, how many times can I activate Righteous Fire and run up and give him a hug in the next hour before this dude definitely dies? When I run back in and the boss is back at full health, I think, okay, this is a puzzle. This is now a puzzle to solve, and my inputs are the solution to it. There exists a finite amount of physical controller or keyboard inputs that, when done in the right order, will achieve victory in this situation. My task, my challenge, is to find them. That is what I like about gaming. Not, you'll see the victory screen if you just keep doing this enough. There's a solution to the puzzle, and I want to find it, not be given it after enough time.
Yeah, grave rushing is something that I did a ton in Path of Exile 1 when I first played, especially against Katava and the like.
Hmm.
And it was a shocker when I got to maps and then I only had 6 attempts. This is going
Yes.
to be an even bigger shock to the system, even though I played a little bit of PoE2. One attempt, you got to get it 100 to 0. And then in maps at endgame, you die and you just lose the entire area. Man, I feel like I'm going to get hard locked places, but I'm going to love it. I like the risk that it's giving me. It's almost like a mix between softcore and hardcore in the game. And they're giving everybody a taste of it. Yeah.
It very, very much is. Now, I think that everyone in the chat is going to be saying, like, which build do we need? Which class do we need? I think that Grinding Gear Games, and this actually links back to a very important point, I think that I trust them when they say every single class and every ascendancy, I mean, you can't ascend to at the end, but every single class can complete the campaign, without a doubt. As far as how far can each class get into endgame, which ascendancies can get into endgame, I think the answer is it's going to be very situational. If there is a single target boss, then a class or ascendancy that has high single target damage is going to do very well. If there is a multi-target boss or a horde boss, then a class that deals with huge hordes of mobs is going to do very well. It's not going to be a case of one size fits all. It's going to be a Swiss Army knife of you need to bring a hell of a lot of variation and choice and tactics to this. I want to play the Chronomancer idea.
Ooh,
I love the look of the Chronomancer. We've got some adverts on Twitch going on, so we'll wait for a second. I want to play the Chronomancer, but it looks to me to be more of a support class for your teammates and less of a seriously powerful class by yourself.
Yeah, that's a really curious discussion. I haven't looked at all the ascendancy nodes yet. I'm going in blind besides for the GGG reveal. I've stayed away from all the build craft, theory craft. I don't even know what I'm playing. Chat is choosing what I'm playing. There's a poll that's running. I have not looked at it. I've refrained. I'm going to find out when I log in. But the Chronomancer, it definitely looks like it could be strong or it could just be really like gimmicky, right?
Got 10 seconds left on the adverts for
10 seconds left. Okay.
Twitch.
All right.
Just
stalling. How long do you have, Josh? I don't want to keep you super long, dude.
I have, in fact, I'll tell you as soon as it comes back on. So, okay, everyone on Twitch, we have waited for you specifically. You just asked how long that I've got. I'm going to be playing through Steam. So I've got as long until they put it on. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. We all have to support each other. We're brothers in arms. Okay. Just because you are the standalone client superior race and I'm playing on Steam, can we get a bit of solidarity for the Steam players in YouTube or Twitch, please?
Dude, it's majority Steam players. I'm just a weirdo. I actually learned from a dev who dev checked me. I said, oh, I feel like it's faster. And he said, no, they're the same speed. Don't even say that. And I was like, oh, shoot. Because my dad texted me, Josh.
Hang on. So when I spoke to GGG and I suggested something and they turned around and went, no, I really appreciated it. And when you spoke to them, they turned around and went, no. They've got no time to talk to any content creators or influencers. They're going to give us direct answers and then make the game.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to help my dad, man, and I was wrong. And he was like, you got to educate your dad properly. You cannot trick your dad into just doing the standalone because it's faster. It's not faster. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the dev check. Zachy, if you're watching, thank you so much. I appreciate it, dude. Well,
I'm not a huge kind of software guy. I know roughly how to run things in administrator mode. I don't know. Don't want to toot my own horn there, but I can do that. So I pre-downloaded everything from Steam, as you can do now. I pre-installed everything, and then I thought, I'm going to do some data mining. I'm going to right-click on the game in Steam. I'm going to click Open Local Files. You know what it opens? Nothing. Nothing is there. I can't even look, can't find the names of things, can't find the files, can't open any notepad stuff. They're crafty.
They've outsmarted us.
They knew someone would do that.
I have heard that people did data mine like the tree and everything, and people have been going berserk theory crafting. Man, we've seen snippets of it, but I'm still gonna have the anti-quit moment, if you will. I remember your first video on PoE. And you said or maybe it was a video about quit moments, and you showcased the Path of Exile skill tree. Oh, it's like my anti-quit moment, and that's why it's so beautiful. I know we already talked about this, but for some people, it's like neuron activated. I'm going in. I'm playing this game for the rest of my life. And other people, they just close out of it entirely. Yeah. Now, it's going to be a really tricky balance with all these brand new people to ARPGs and Path of Exile, seeing that after the first boss kill, because everyone's going to see it again. Yep. Do you think that they're going to stick the landing this time and really grab people in? with the way that it's like designed and showcased.
The only thing that I suggested, and I don't know if they have or haven't taken the advice, is have it zoomed in and have from just like one or two choices, and just have a little tutorial that explains to the player, you can go here or here. You can get this or get this. And as soon as the player clicks on one of those two, then have it zoom out. Because the psychological power of having someone make a choice and then showing them the future is vastly different to showing them everything and saying, make a choice. Because there's a really interesting psychological concept called the paradox of choice. And this was proved a couple of years ago in a scientific experiment using pasta sauce, actually, in a shopping center. They put 2 pasta sauce flavors in a shop and recorded how many people chose each of them, and then recorded the satisfaction of choosing each of them. And it turns out roughly half the people were satisfied with what they chose because you only kind of had 2. So they thought, surely if we put more pasta sauce, there'll be more satisfaction because people have a greater choice. And we discovered something really interesting about human psychology. The human brain doesn't actually prioritize the choice it made. It prioritizes the choices it didn't. So if you put 100 pasta sauces on there, it's not, I have found the perfect pasta sauce out of all 100. It is, I have not chose 99, and there is a high percentage one of them is better. So the paradox of choice is sometimes the more choice you give someone, you end up with analysis paralysis. You don't choose anything because of the massive variation presented to you, and you're trying to compartmentalize all of these things. So what we then do is, by presenting 2 choices and having the player make one and then presenting the rest, the player has already physically, by clicking, and psychologically and mentally committed to continuing to make choices within this tree. And by choosing one, you've almost eliminated the ones on the opposite side. You haven't actually done that. You can still loop round to it, but you have mentally, to a new player, eliminated, we're not going this way. We're going this way. All we need to do is slowly flip that psychological commitment into, this is a good choice, instead of, this is an overwhelming choice. Let's see how well they can do.
I always learn something. That is, I believe, what they're doing. I think they have the 2 choices. Okay. They're both very clear. I don't know about the Zoom thing. They have 2 very generic choices, and it does exactly what you say. It branches them out, and it eliminates that side path. Don't worry about it. Here is the path you're taking, and it's very niche. It's very basic. And everything in the center of the tree is understandable, digestible to really beginner players. And then as you sprawl out and get further from the center, that's when the complexity starts dripping in.
Which is good.
And that's good.
That's exactly what you want. Yep. The first 2 choices should have obvious, easy choice between the direction you want to go. Then it gets more and more and more and more and more niche the further you go away from the center. I often say to people, I used to work with the military for a long time, and I say, the best choice you can make is the right one. The second best choice you can make is the wrong one. The worst choice you can make is no choice at all. So once you have made someone make one choice, whether it's right or wrong, commit to it and then push out. Whether we can get people to psychologically agree to the fact that this is a good thing in the game, that remains up to them. But and the trick is going to be getting people who don't like the initial shock of the tree to trust the process and slowly present the tree as a positive instead of a scary negative.
I'm really curious to see how the tutorial works and if that onboarding really is improved, man. Oh, here we go. What is it?
You said the word tutorial. I have no formal training in game design. I was an actor before this. I trained in London. I was an actor on stage. I did all of that. COVID shut the theaters down. I switched to YouTube and Twitch. But a lot of my theoretical training with acting was in something called phenomenology, which is the human experience of an event in relation to the context around the event. It's far too complicated to even try and explain on Twitch. But ultimately, it is, we don't experience things, we remember things based on everything around that thing. Yep. And because of this, I've been able to relate a lot of what I've learned to game design, and I've lectured at universities on the tutorialization of games. Now, right now, I don't know if I can say this or not, but I'm going to. Right now, I'm working with a team on the Soul Reaver remaster. Soul Reaver 1, Soul Reaver 2, 2 of my favorite games of all time. I actually use Soul Reaver. I don't know if anyone in the chat's played it before. I use Soul Reaver as the perfect example of pacing within a tutorial. You present mechanic A. You allow them to use it easily. You then present mechanic B. You allow the player to use it easily. You then present a situation where A and B overlap and must be combined. For example, Soul Reaver. First room, move around and can't be attacked. Second room, jump up a ledge. Third room, jump up 2 ledges that are apart from each other, moving and jumping. 2 things. Sounds very simple. It's actually complicated to do. Third thing, in a room, jump and glide. Then you get to a 4th room that requires you to jump up several ledges, over a gap, and then glide to another. You've combined mechanic 1, 2, and 3. You then get to combat, and then you get to pushing a block. And then in the final room, you have to jump, glide over some water, which you know is dangerous, fight an enemy, throw them into the water, which you know is dangerous, glide toward a block, push the block toward a wall, jump onto the block, and then climb over a ledge. And I thought, why doesn't the block get pushed onto a button which opens a door and you just go through a door? And then I realized, because by pushing the block to a ledge, you are combining pushing, moving, jumping, climbing, and gliding. You are forcing the player to kind of reassess and recontextualize the original mechanics they knew within a new space and show how the new mechanics relate back to them. If Path of Exile 2 can present you with a mechanic, then present you with a new experience and a new mechanic, and then combine them, and do that constantly, slowly, drip feeding us for 35 to 40 hours, I'll be happy.
Ooh. It's going to be quite the task, given the
without
game,
a doubt.
the complexity.
And we'll find out in T-minus 60 minutes.
I know. Hey, by the way, Steam Early Access now available per the Twitter from Path of Exile.
I've already downloaded it.
Oh, you're good? You're good? I think, is the queue open, you guys?
Is the queue open?
The queue might be open, dude. I might be missing out. Because usually the queue's open on launch day for weeks, 2 hours before. Is the queue open? Okay, I'm getting no's and yeses in the chat.
The play button is grayed out. I managed to download the pre-install yesterday.
Nice. See, I learned last night, Josh, that despite paying $100 or $10 a month for my internet, it's trash. Comcast is trash, apparently. I have terrible internet.
You guys, isn't there like 2 internet providers?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a monopoly. There
all of the land. Yeah, you've got that. See, I am professional, and yet I still stream over Wi-Fi because I'm very lazy and I don't want to bother wiring my house up.
That is so brave. What?
Thank you. It is. Yeah, thoughts and prayers for me. The strange thing is, the more professional I get with this, the less professional I end up being with anything that I do. I
think your background looks phenomenal, man.
Oh, hang on. I've actually got something that you could help me out with.
Oh, it's not. No, it's not what I think it is. Bro, I need to call my wife in here if it. Yeah.
So this looks pretty easy. This looks pretty simple to me. Could you just talk me through the exact motions and movements that I need to go to solve this? I'll hold it up to you. What are we doing?
If I was a 14-year-old, I totally could do it. Because apparently it's an hour and a half for a 14-year-old, but I am a 27-year-old man, and it took me 5.5 hours with a guide. But if you spin the... Here, I have mine here too. Here. Do you know you can make it light up? If you spin the map, yeah, you got to spin it. I know you've been working out in the gym, so you just got to go really fast. Yeah, do you see it lighting up? It goes green, right? That reveals some clues in the box that my mind has already erased. It's pretty cool. It also like flashes and everything.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. Excellent. I'll sort that out in the future. That's not a problem for now. It looks pretty easy.
Hey, there's something pretty cool in there. I won't spoil it in case you haven't seen, but there might be something amazing, okay? Well, there is something amazing, but there's a 10% chance that it's something...
It could be good. It could be good. It could be bad. We're used to it by now.
It's definitely good.
That would save me a lot of time trying to get that as a drop. But in all seriousness, you don't know what class all the viewers are voting for, do you? But no. I've had a look at that, and I do.
Oh, really?
I'm not going to tell you, obviously, but
thank you.
Talk to me about the classes. Tell me what you've seen, what looks good for you, what looks interesting, because I'm interested.
So I did order them in the order I'd like to play them. The only reason I let chat vote on who I'm playing is because they all look entertaining. I think I'll have a fun time regardless of who I play. When I played PoE2 the first time, I played the Warrior. The game was not good. I gave lots of feedback to GGG. Did not feel like a good game to play. They took that in stride. A lot of testers gave that same feedback. They changed a lot. Second time I played the Monk. felt so good. Oh my goodness. It was great. So, given everything I've seen and what I've played, I think Sorceress has notched the top position because of the visual design of all of her abilities, especially the lightning spells. It just looks satisfying. And that's why I play games. I like to be satisfied. I like to cast spells and turn my ball lightning into many projectiles and hear that static energy as it zips
there's a
across.
Huge amount of visual feedback that you want from the screen.
Stimulus.
I've been staring at my graphics card all day thinking, you and me, we're about to fall out. I'm about to see what you can do. See if this is worth it. Man.
Because they said, if you can run PoE 1, you're good. But PoE 2, I don't know.
It's going to look good. It's going to look beautiful. Now, I've always been a fan of minion builds. I love minions in Guild Wars 1. They're all kind of necromancer, raising them up. And I loved playing minion builds in Path of Exile 1. I just got annoyed that I had to keep resummoning my minions every time they died. And I love the fact that the spirit mechanic means that, and when I was watching it, the minions only get resummoned if a minion hasn't died recently. Which means if you get into a massive fight and they all die, you then kind of have to wait a bit before you get them all back. It's not a constant cycle. And I like that. It means that, again, it relates back to the whole, you're not just throwing a load of stuff at it and waiting. But there's no ascendancy, I don't think, that is specifically minion build focused, because they didn't want that. They didn't want players to feel hemmed in to, you're playing minion, you've got to take this. How do you feel about that, about taking away the focus, but allowing more of a broad generalization?
Generalization, way better. It allows for far more build possibilities. Another change that they made that's related to this, one support gem can be used across your entire character. You can't repeat.
Yes.
That's genius. People hated it. They're like, this is going to limit build possibility. What do you mean? This is increasing diversity. So much so. There's going to be unlimited combinations now that people are going to be able to experiment with in the game because of this, because they also did the next necessary step, and they added a ton of variety in the gems.
To get more than one support gem, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
What?
I'm not going to tell you.
What are you talking about?
You got to find it. Do you actually want to know genuinely?
I don't know.
I'm not going to tell you. Even if you say yes, I'm not going to tell you.
No, don't tell me. Don't tell. What do you? You can double up on a support. What?
Now,
like on an
one
item?
of the reasons I love that you said that. You said build variety. Does anyone in the chat play Magic the Gathering? Do you play Magic the Gathering, Trey?
I have never played Magic the Gathering.
Okay, so I love Magic the Gathering. The problem is that whenever building a deck, there are sometimes objectively correct choices. Like if I'm building a commander deck and someone says, hey, you're going to put Command Tower in this deck? The answer is, well, yeah, of course I am. And then someone says, oh, you're going to put Arcane Signet in the deck? Well, yeah, of course I am. And then hang on, my 100 card deck has actually become a 98 card deck with 2 cards guaranteed. But then I realized that, actually, I also need this card and 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 this card. And suddenly my 100 choices have come down to like 20 choices and 80 objectively correct ones.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've seen with a lot of Path of Exile 1 is, hey, if you want to run this build, there is an objectively correct way to do it, and you have maybe 1 or 2 kind of switch spots in the whole thing. By limiting where these support gems go, you are forcing people to think, right, what do I want to support?
Mm-hmm. They're forcing people to innovate, right?
Yes.
It's wonderful. And I think one of the game directors, Mark Roberts, said, when we made this change, it made the game 50% better.
Yeah.
Seriously, just the one little simple change. It was hey, what if we tried this out? And that's another reason why I love GGG. They aren't married to anything, which is super cool, right? They are willing to just change their entire game on a dime. And if it works out, they are willing to put in the legwork to make sure it feels good throughout the game itself. One thing that happened is like WASD in the game. They made that work on one class and they said, oh, damn. We have to now make it work on every class, and we have to redesign every level in the game to account for it. This is going to cause a delay, but control is that. No, Josh, you're not starting with controller.
I'm still rocking the mid-2000s see-through plastic Xbox 360 controller because controller design peaked at the Xbox 360 see-through plastic. Everything has just been an iteration on this. The cable's frayed, the thumbstick's kind of fallen off at the rubber. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I will stand by this being the greatest controller human beings ever invented. Now, I'm not going to play controller, but I like having it there next to me. I might even play Mercenary, who knows, because I saw that meme saying, I'm out of spells, but I'm not out of shells. And it's just a guy carrying a shotgun round, which was great. Talking about the idea of they're not married to anything. Whenever I worked in theater, whenever I teach someone anything, I very much believe in the phrase, limitation breeds creativity. If you limit what someone can do, they are forced to find a way to make what they want to do work within that limitation. And you often see huge uses of creativity. Now, for example, I can tie this back to film and TV and theater specifically, when films don't have enough budget. You ever seen Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie?
Yep.
You know, at the end, they say, hey, where are the guns? And he remembers that he left them in the taxi. That was actually written in a few days before being filmed because they genuinely found out they didn't have the budget for a shootout. So they said, right, what do? We can't just not have a final fight. So when he goes, maximum effort, it was cheaper to hire a fight choreographer than it was to have a load of special effects and guns on the set.
Really?
Limitation breeds creativity. Have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
I did. I only saw it 2 years ago. I went until age 25.
Brilliant. Anyone in the chat, have you seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail? I'm hoping you have. One of the best, funniest British films ever. Do you remember the ending of that film?
Yes.
Where the police just drive in and arrest everyone.
Yep, and it's like a Ren Fair almost.
Yeah, someone went, hey, what is that ending? And the Python just went, we couldn't think how to end it, so it's a cop-out. That's the joke. The English phrase so cop-out means you did something that you just couldn't be bothered to do. They literally get arrested by the police, and that's how the film ended. They couldn't afford horses, so they hit the coconuts together. All of these limitations ended up breeding some of the most creative moments in cinema, in TV, in theater, in art. By limiting what the player can do in this game, I'm hoping we see that creativity start to blossom.
Absolute cinema in game. I think that's what we're looking for. 100%.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about cinematics. How good is that opening cinematic?
Do you know Jonathan Rogers wrote that?
Seriously?
Yes, he wrote it. The game director. He freaking wrote the cinematic. He was like, I want to make sure that this is true to PoE. I'm going to write it, right? Obviously, they had a studio outside of GGG do the cinematic, but he wrote it
was a
beginning to
good
end.
One. Yeah.
It was so good.
I did not expect, if anyone's not seen it, I don't think this is spoiling it now because obviously it's been on the internet for ages. When the thing gets stabbed, I didn't expect that. I'm like, oh, damn. You've introduced something that's super creepy and powerful and evil, and humans are like, haha, no. Love it. Absolutely love it.
He said he was going for the, oh goodness, the name's escaping me, where, you know, it's a bunch of good guys, you think, and then they end up being the bad guys, and the thing they were hunting is
expectations kind of thing. I get what you're
for. Subverting Riddick-like. Thank you, chat. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, like Chronicles of Riddick. Yeah,
I love Chronicles of Riddick. Chronicles of Riddick, the film, was one of those few films that switched genre from Pitch Black being a horror film to Chronicles of Riddick being like an action-adventure fantasy, which I really enjoyed. But to go back to the cutscene, there's an old saying with Blizzard specifically. Everyone is only ever one cutscene away, one cinematic away from resubscribing. And something that I've become jaded at over the years, I don't know if you guys in the chat agree with this, I just don't really care about cinematics being representative of gameplay anymore. I can't get hyped for a cinematic. I can admit that it's cool, but I've seen too many cinematics that have nothing to do with the game. But then when they showed some gameplay, that's when I started to think, okay, they've got something here. How did you feel when it went from cinematic to gameplay?
So here's the thing with GGG. They've always been gameplay first. Ever since the first showcase of Path of Exile, like they did not show any cinema. It was just pure into the gameplay all the way to the first showcase of Path of Exile 2. Purely gameplay trailer. That's all. So I've seen tons of gameplay. They always do live demos on stage when they're showcasing their game. So I actually already knew the game was good, dude. So when I saw that cinematic pop up on screen, I was just happy for them. Like, I knew this was probably the culmination of everything they've tried to do over the past, 15, 16 years, creating the next Diablo 2. And they probably poured everything they had into making this one cinematic just to wow the crowd. They did not need to do this. They've talked about before, it's a lot of work in. They'd rather put stuff into the gameplay, but people have been asking for a long time. You've done so much work on the game. Come on, just give us a little taste of what Rayclass looks like in an epic 3D animated cinematic. They finally went in and did it. I was just so pleased because I already knew that the game was good because that's all that they show. Yeah. Other games, it's the reverse. It's the cinematic first, and you're always looking at the bottom of the screen during showcases like, this is not representative of actual in-game footage, right? And they only show that during announcements and showcases during big shows. And GGG doesn't do that. At the Summer Games Fest or whatever, Gamescom this year, all in-game footage. Everything was in-game. Right? They're showing the game itself. And that's lovely.
Do you think that speaks to the fact that if you need to do that, if you need to show in-game footage as your advertisement, as your hype builder, you then have a vested interest in making your in-game footage and in-game experience as engaging, as enticing, as visually beautiful as it can be. If you are using a cinematic trailer to build hype for your game instead of just being an addition to the game that already exists, you're actually switching the focus and putting more effort into the aesthetic appeal of a trailer instead of the gameplay appeal of a game.
It's the single wow experience, not as in World of Warcraft, just somebody seeing that and instantly buying in, and they're going to log in and they might play for a little bit, while the feeling of, wow, this is so cool, slowly starts to fade and fade and fade. But then with something like Path of Exile 2, the closer you get to endgame, the longer you play, that feeling just usually grows for me. Like the feeling of me being mysticized, I don't think that's a word, but being just fascinated by the game itself. The longer I play, the more I'm entertained. But other games that I'm hyped up about via like cinematics or, big blockbusters, I feel totally the opposite. And I think it's
you're absolutely spot on. I researched this in uni a lot.
Really?
I called it the Avatar effect. Have you
I was
seen
just
the
going to
film
talk
Avatar?
about movies. Yes.
You seen Avatar? Statistically, everyone's seen Avatar. How much did Avatar actually change culture? And the answer is almost not at all.
Nothing.
One of the biggest grossing films of all time. Visually, absolutely stunning. Statistically, most people went to go and see Avatar in 3D. And then nothing happened in pop culture. No one was buying Avatar toys at Christmas. No one was going to conventions dressed up as Avatar characters. It didn't spawn any of its own specific conventions. It just didn't do that. Avatar came and went because it's pretty, but it's not deep.
Yep, exactly. It's surface level. And
we're going to give the Twitch guys a second with the ads.
Oh, they've got some ads going up. Oh, look at that. A Prime from another see people, if you sub,
which means I think this is a YouTube exclusive part of the conversation, which is still happening.
Ooh, what should we talk about for YouTube exclusive stuff?
Let's talk about how much better YouTube is than Twitch. They'll never know.
Quality is way higher. Playback. You can pause, come back.
That it automatically archives your videos and sticks them onto the live tab within your channel, which is also monetized and is great.
The only reason I'd multi-stream, so I can have that record back.
Right? I would, but I'm lazy, so I just don't. Right, so YouTube people right now, I'm reading the chat specifically. It's just us. We've got the next, hang on. We've got 1 minute, 34 seconds until the plebeians on Twitch come back. What are you going to chat about?
They called us blokes. Is bloke an endearing term?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're in England and someone says, "Oh yeah, you're a good bloke," it means it's the way that Australians would say mate or guy, or Americans would say buddy, but in like a genuinely nice way, not in a kind of hey buddy way. Yeah, bloke is a good one. I'd call someone a pal, call someone a mate, call someone a bloke.
Okay, how about bud? What do you feel about the term bud?
Bud. See, we don't really say that too much in England. Anyone who is English, we very rarely use it. If someone called me bud, I would immediately think that I'm about to get into a fight. Straight away.
Thank you so much. I hate the term bud, dude. And people people I work with, I was much younger when I started than a lot of people. And they'd always say, oh, hey, bud. Somebody called me old sport.
Old sport?
Yeah. Like from
like an 80-year-old guy in a country club or something playing golf with you, because that's like the only real moment I could think that would work.
It was incredibly odd. And no, we were in the office and he started calling me old sport. And he was what, like 7 years older than I was? It was very odd, man.
Right, if someone, we've got 20 seconds left until Twitch comes back. I'm going to save this for them because that's very important.
Okay.
Yeah, if someone said, calm down, bud, I would straight away be looking for an exit or a weapon. One of the two. Ideally, both. That's what we do. So Twitch has got 5 seconds until they come back.
All right.
Okay, welcome back, Twitch. You've missed nothing. We think you're just
Literally
as
nothing.
important as the YouTube people. Now, if someone called me old sport, the only kind of situation that would work in is we're in Monaco. We're on a yacht. He's got some kind of jumper tied around his neck in that kind of cape way that really wealthy people do. Maybe he's got a glass of Prosecco, pastel trousers. He's wearing sliders without socks. And he's chatting to me about his portfolio, and I'm nodding along, pretending to know what the NASDAQ is.
Oh my God.
That's when someone can say to me, yes, what do you think, old sport? And I could be like, I think I'm not rich enough to be here.
Incredibly true. Yeah, I felt so out of place when he said it. I didn't know how to react, man. You would described it perfectly. Felt like, what company did I just start in? Like, this was my first day. Old sport.
Are we about to go hunting on the horses or something? What's about to go on? What's happening here? The vibe is wrong at that point.
Going to the 20s clubs and everything. What were they called? The speakeasies, you know?
We're going to the speakeasy down the road. Quick, grab your trilby, let's go. That kind of stuff. Oh, man, I'll tell you what the weirdest thing I ever heard someone say was, and I love this because it was true. I used to work in retail. I've done a lot of jobs over my life, and I was a retail worker one time. Used to work for a company called Mankind. It sells like gifts and gadgets and toys and little helicopters. If you've been to the kind of the gadget store, the nature store, Red 5, all those kind of silly, normally pop-up stores at Christmas that just sell...
Yep.
It's not tat because it's actually quite good, but it's not super high-end stuff.
Yep.
I really liked working for that company. I'll tell you what, they treated me well. And they sent me to London to do my training in retail because, you know, once you've done retail in London, you can pretty much do it anyway. It's very, very busy. And I was on the tills and I was scanning stuff and I was packing things in bags and I was giving them, it was a Christmas rush. And the guy next to me had obviously been there a while. He was a younger chap. He had bright blonde hair, very flamboyant. And I cannot forget that every single customer he served, he would hand them their bag and he would say, thank you, have an enchanting evening. And the first time I heard him say it, I was kind of like, what? And that's just a thing that he did. And I could never forget. So I just started saying, thanks, guys, have a good day. I couldn't say enchanting evening. I just couldn't do it. The vibe wasn't right.
Oh, come on. You didn't reciprocate?
I mean, I tried. I got in trouble in that job for calling my boss dude. So I remember a guy was my manager called Danny at the time, and he was like, okay, gentlemen, I'm off home. And I'm like, all right, see you later, dude. And he walked out and I just carried on working. And I got pulled into a meeting the next day with Danny's secretary. And they said, Josh, Danny is very high up in this company. He's a very important manager. He doesn't appreciate being called dude.
Dude, I had the same thing happen to me. But I used hey in an email, and they were like, you cannot use hey to start an email. You can't do it. That's too unprofessional. And I'm like...
It's not unprofessional at all. It's human, man. It's human. We're dealing with human general people. So what I did was, eventually I got promoted to like assistant manager, but not at the same store that Danny worked at, which I realized at that point he had no power over me. So I just specifically started and ended every email to him with, hey, dude. And then whatever the email was, I'm like, cheers, dude. Josh, which was petty of me, I know, but it gave me a great sense of joy for the rest of working there. I really do think that I used to work for a big kind of clothes retailer in the UK once, and I was stocking some shelves in the morning. I was a manager, but I was still doing all the menial work. And the customer said, excuse me, and I thought it was a member of staff because it sounded exactly like someone I was working with. And I turned around and went, yo, because they just say yo. And the customer came up to me and went, do you believe yo is appropriate to talk to a customer in?
Holy crap, man.
And I couldn't think of anything funnier, so I replied, depends who yo are.
That's pretty funny.
Which I stand by being very funny, but I did then get a talking to by my boss.
Really?
For not being respectful enough. In fact, it was raining on the day, and I moved all of the umbrellas that we sold to the front of the store, and I got on the tannoy and I went, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, the umbrellas are at the front of the store so you don't get wet.
Oh my god!
Which is a legitimate way to sell things, and again, I got shouted at for that.
That's just fun, you know? I like
It is
that kind of levity in work. I think it makes work a lot more enjoyable, passes the time, keeps everybody
Yeah.
engaged. Like I manage quite a few people at my work, and I swear I'm like a caricature because I need to keep the team's morale levels high. Like I swear at sometimes I'm putting on I'm basically how I am right now, but I even more so because I really want to make sure they're also engaged in conversations, and I work remote. The worst thing I can have is dead silence during a team call or nobody engaged in it. I hate it.
People vastly ignore the power of motivation, of morale in a team. People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. People will stick at the worst job they've had way too long if the person they're working for is nice to them, is kind to them, treats them like a human, has a bit of banter with them. It feels like a good place to work. And people will quit good jobs because they hate the people above them. They hate the general team atmosphere. They hate the entire idea. And I very much subscribe to the idea that if you can just talk to people like a genuine human being, then they'll stay longer. Speaking about that, we have 48 minutes left to go, and I can see the chat talking about how down the website currently is. Shall we go and have a look? Add two more people.
Is it absolutely down? Like, are the servers already on fire? pathofexile.com. It is down, Josh. The website is entirely down. I'm getting mixed signals on whether or not the queues are open for standalone, which is what I'm doing because that's the superior way to play Path of Exile.
I'm still getting nothing on Steam.
Nothing on Steam, man. They are cutting it close because usually, like I said, queues are usually up 2.5 hours before launch. I swear. So this is like running into the wire, dude.
Hey, as soon as you've got to go, when you need to go to set up, let me know. All I've got downstairs, genuinely, is I've got an entire pallet of bottles of water from Costco.
I've got this. I actually will need to do a refill.
I've got piles of caffeine-filled gamer subs and 2 sausage rolls.
I don't have any gamer
subs.
I need.
That's all I need. So, well, I got contacted by GGG, and they said, "Hey, Josh, do you want to stream the game when it comes out?" And I said, "Yes, of course I do." And they said, "Hey, we want to sponsor you to do this." And I went, "Well, that's stupid of you. I was going to do it anyway."
Yeah.
And then there was a moment of silence, and they just followed up with, "Josh, do you want this job or not?" Oh, yeah, I definitely do. Almost talked myself out of my own career there. But then they said, "Hey, the game goes live at 7:00 UK time. Do you want to stream at 7:00?" And I kind of replied, "I'm going to be real with you. That's more on you and less on me. Like, I'll be ready at 7:00, but whether the game is, that's a you problem."
Are you getting paid to sit in the queues, Josh?
Not yet. That will start in the next 34 minutes. This is just a freebie that I'm giving you.
The clock starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as that happens, then I'll just sit here and chat about it. That's the thing. Well, if Steam allows me to download it.
It's going to. They're doing some. It says they're doing some last minute database upgrades.
They're getting a third hamster. That's what they're doing. They're getting a third hamster and a slightly bigger wheel.
Oh, my wonderful wife just brought me war water. She must be listening to me on Twitch. Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Someone on Twitch just said that the game is delayed until 8 p.m. I don't believe you, but I'm going to Google it.
No way. No way. No, they like to troll. No.
We can't be having this. I tried to check the website, and what I can confirm... give me a second. This is going to be interesting.
The realm shut down.
I can confirm that the little circle be spinning, yo.
It's not live yet. It's totally not live. A few minutes late, the hamsters are working. You said you got confirmation that there's a second hamster on the wheels or a second hamster wheel.
I believe that they are looking into purchasing a second hamster. I don't know if there was a second hamster wheel. I believe what they've actually done is the Path of Exile 1 servers, clearly powered by this very energetic hamster. The Path of Exile 2 servers, instead of adding a hamster wheel, there's like a little axle where a hamster wheel should be, and they've just kind of spread an elastic band from it to the first wheel. So now that is working overtime on both of them right now, and God bless him, he's doing well.
He is. I mean, he hasn't really had a real fire happen since Ultimatum, which was back in 2021. That's pretty impressive, honestly.
So what we've got with the Path of Exile 2 website, I can confirm the game is going to launch at 404 connection error.
Oh shoot, Josh! Don't tell me that. No, 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 no. Yeah,
The main website, pathofexile2.com is down.
it's how okay. Numbers prediction. How many do you think we're gonna get today and tomorrow? Just waiting or in game.
Well, from what we've heard, they've had over 1 million early access claims. Now, some of those claims will obviously be the early access codes they've given out to streamers, content creators, people who definitely don't make guides ahead of time, all those kind of people they sorted out. But I still think they're going to have sold, 950,000 of them? Wow. I don't know how many free codes they've given out. But let's say they're giving out, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Let's say they're giving out for a nice, easy number, 10,000 codes. That's just a very nice, easy number. That means 990,000 actual sales at $30 a pop? We're looking at nearly 30 million already made and almost 1 million players. I think they're going to try and get 1 million people. If we get over 1 million, we beat New World when it released on Steam. And that was Amazon's MMO, which only released on Steam without a standalone client. If the Steam numbers can get, I think, 600K, we'll be bloody happy.
Oh, that'll be so awesome. I'd be so happy for grinding gear games. Suffering from success, truly. I mean,
Michael Caine, the actor, famously said once, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. And everyone will step forward and go, oh my God, Path of Exile 2, it just came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. It came out of years and years of iterations, failures, successes, lessons, late nights, borrowing, stealing, blood, sweat, and tears. It came out of all the effort, the combination of effort they've put in over the years. And now everyone starts to notice. And that's what matters.
A decade of good decisions, man. That's what we're seeing.
I mean, that's also, someone in the chat's a very interesting point. That is assuming that everyone bought the cheapest possible key. If people didn't buy the cheapest possible key, we've definitely made over 30 million already.
Oh, most definitely. I think a ridiculous number of people have bought the $480 pack, and they're going to sell some unique item creations and divine create. I don't know what they're going to price those at, dude.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy some stuff.
You think so?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
As soon as I open this puzzle box, I'll send them some money. So could be now, could be next year. Who knows? As soon as that puzzle box is open, they'll get something. But this actually links back to a really important point that I want to chat about earlier, and that is trust. I was talking to Chris Wilson years ago, and I said to him, Chris, I have a theory, and I've had this theory for a long time. Trust is a currency. It is earned in drops and lost in buckets, as they say. When you do something good, the audience trusts you. Your fans, your viewers, anyone that consumes your content trusts you. When you do something bad, you effectively spend that trust. Sometimes you do something bad without meaning to. You put a stupid update out, you break the game, you do something that's incredibly controversial, you lose that trust. Sometimes you actively and willingly make a decision that you know is going to cost some audience trust, but will be a benefit for the game in the long term. The biggest difference I see between Grinding Gear Games and Blizzard is Blizzard have lost more audience trust than they have gained. Whereas GGG, I believe, is still kind of within debit of that. They've got more audience trust than they've spent. So when GGG turns around and says, hey, trust us, I can comfortably say, okay. How do you feel they've managed to achieve that?
I think it's all back to transparency. These are three guys who started the company, in 2006, and ever since that beginning and their reveal of the game, they've just always been proactively talking with the people who play the game and playing the game themselves. And it's obvious. None of them have ever become out of touch people who aren't involved in the intricacies of how the community's reacting or how the community's playing. They've always tried to prop up their community and put that first in the development. Mark Roberts communicated it very effectively here, where they were talking about something that many people were interested in. It's a roadmap for the game. People are like, where's the roadmap for Path of Exile 2? What's coming next? And Mark essentially said that we don't want to put out a roadmap because we want to listen to what all of you think is most important to address first. We want to listen to your concerns, where we should go next. We're ready to turn on a dime our entire company based on the reception of the community. And I think they've also done an excellent job of being able to sort through the good feedback versus the bad feedback. That's something I think you talked about earlier in our little chat. You know,
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the audience members and players, they are great at spotting problems and terrible at offering solutions.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's just how they've built this up over all the years, because that is every Path of Exile update. You know, we can meme on them all we want for them not addressing something like melee for a long time, but they realized the issue. They just, as I think you found out in your interview with Jonathan, their solution was a brand new game, right? And that takes a long time. It wasn't just a simple fix. They knew that this was a core issue with the structure of the game that they built starting in 2006. And they needed to completely rewrite everything to address it. And they've been working on that for 5 years. And oh my God, dude, 26 minutes. 26 minutes. I've just,
you know, you have a couple of messages in the Twitch chat of people who have won the raffles, won some keys. They're asking how those messages are going to be sent. If you want, I can head off. You can sort out those keys, and then maybe we'll see each other in Rayclast. Maybe not.
That probably is a good idea, man. Probably a good idea. I need to get a refill. This was so phenomenal, Josh. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Not a problem, man. I've enjoyed your content for a long time. I think you are going to become far bigger than you possibly imagined right now. I think Path of Exile 2 is going to become one of the ideally kind of top 10 online games. I think it can be up there with Warframe, with Guild Wars 2, with Albion Online as an absolutely solid, perfect, shining example of what the industry, what the genre can be. And if I get my way, I'll get Quill Rain in the first few minutes. We'll build a beautiful poison build. It'll all be fine. Go and hand out the keys to people. Thank you for letting me chat to you, and I will see you in Rayclast.
100%. Talk to you later, Josh.
All right, stay sane, Exile. Take care.
Hi, you as well. Oh my goodness. Sorry, people.